Hello, how are you? Have you noticed that your memory isn't what it used to be? Sometimes you forget where you put your keys, can't remember where you parked the car, or you get up to do something and end up doing something else you hadn't even planned to do at that moment. Of course, this can be related to distraction, but for many people, it can be an early sign that something is happening in our brain. And of course, we want to prevent this from getting worse over time. There are some foods, specifically a tea that our grandmothers used to use a lot, which has been scientifically proven to help improve our brain and even help in cases of dementia. I'm going to tell you all about this tea. I'll tell you what the study is, I'll tell you how to take it, you're going to love it. Stay until the end because you won't want to miss this. Before we start, I want to ask you, how old are you and have you noticed your memory getting a little worse? Are you mixing up people's names, forgetting what you were about to do? How long ago did this start happening to you? Write it for me down below in the comments and tell me if you're already doing something to improve your memory. I'd love to see your comment. Sometimes your tip can help other people too. Let's expand this chain of good here on the channel. In order to help this message reach even more people, please consider liking the video, as it shows YouTube that you find this content valuable and that you genuinely support the channel and trust the information I share. We know that as we get older, as we age, our brain as a whole, our body goes through changes. From around the age of 60, it's natural for our thinking speed to slow down, for our short-term memory to become more fragile, and even for our attention to sometimes fail. But what most people don't know is that these changes are not necessarily signs of dementia, Alzheimer's, or any neurological problem, but rather about neuroinflammation and the accumulation of brain toxins, which is a process that can be slowed down and even partially reversed with the right habits. This is a very important point. Because these toxins, including beta amyloid, which is closely linked to Alzheimer's, accumulate between neurons, making communication more difficult between them. It's as if there were an electrical wire, right? As if the neurons were electrical wires covered in dust or grease. So, the electric current will still pass through, because our brain works with electricity, but it's a weaker current. And it's exactly here that this grandma's tea, which was so commonly used in the past, comes in. And why do we lose these such good habits, right? But it's exactly here that this wonderful tea comes into play. In the past, it was very common for people to make infusions, herbs, and teas to clear their minds, calm their thoughts, and relax their minds. And these herbs were often grown at home, right in the backyard or in small pots. Among them, there was one herb that stood out for its striking aroma and for its symbolic name, which is sage. From Latin, it comes from salvare, meaning to save, to heal. So for millennia, sage has been known as a medicinal plant. And sage was used as a tonic, digestive, calming agent, and fortifier. But what many people didn't realize is that decades later, neuroscientists would discover that this plant contains compounds that can act directly on our brain. We already know that sage has been used for many, many centuries to improve health and memory, but recent research has managed to understand exactly why. Sage contains rosmarinic acid, carnosic acid, cineol, and flavonoids. In other words, these compounds have strong antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects, and these substances reduce what's called neuronal oxidative stress, which is one of the main triggers for memory loss, the development of Alzheimer's, and other types of dementia. In addition, sage specifically inhibits the enzyme responsible for breaking down acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter involved in learning, concentration, and memory. In other words, it helps to maintain good communication between neurons more efficiently, safely, and in a completely natural way, right? There was a very interesting study that followed people with mild to moderate Alzheimer's for 4 months. Half of the participants took a standardized extract of Salvia officinalis, and the other half received a placebo. And the result was that the group who received sage showed significant improvement in memory, attention, and mental clarity. This was measured by international cognitive tests. So it's really scientifically proven. And the patients also showed less agitation and irritability, which we know are common mood swings experienced by many people living with Alzheimer's. And all of this happened without serious side effects, which are often associated with other medications used to manage Alzheimer's. Since then, other studies have been conducted in other countries, Germany, the United Kingdom, Italy, which have confirmed these beneficial effects. In fact, studies have shown that healthy adults who take sage experience improved focus and mental clarity, even just a few hours after consumption. So, what did Grandma used to do to clear her mind, to get her thoughts straight? It makes perfect sense. So a lot of people want to know exactly how sage works in our brain, right? So think of it kind of like the brain is a city, right? The neurons are like the little houses. Acetylcholine is the electricity that connects it all. And over time, this electrical system starts to build up, like I told you. Fat, rust, dust, And these free radicals, inflammation, it's as if they were that dust, that fat. These are things that harm the functioning. Sage acts as if it were a natural electrician because it cleans those wires, reduces those short circuits, and actually improves the flow of energy in the brain. In addition, it helps protect the mitochondria, prevent mental fatigue, improve cerebral circulation, ensure proper oxygenation, and gently reduce anxiety by acting on GABA receptors, which are neurotransmitters involved in relaxation and sleep. That's why it doesn't cause stress or make people feel agitated. So, you can include sage tea in your daily routine. The main point is that it's not enough to simply take and throw sage leaves into boiling water. Ideally, you should heat the water to about 190 degrees Fahrenheit, that is almost boiling, but before it starts to bubble vigorously. Then you add to this water about 1 cup, roughly 1 teaspoon of chopped sage leaves, and let it steep for about 8 to 10 minutes. You can strain it and drink a cup in the late afternoon, right? At that moment when you want to relax more. The ideal dose is actually 1 cup per day. You don't need to drink large amounts to get the beneficial effect. Remember that old saying from grandma, sometimes the difference between medicine and poison is the dose. So 1 cup a day for healthy people is a great option for your daily routine. Who shouldn't drink it? People whose high blood pressure isn't controlled or who have epilepsy, seizures. If you already take any continuous use medication, such as anticonvulsants, antidepressants, anticoagulants, sedatives, or if you already have proven kidney or liver problems. And if you are pregnant, even more so, because that's a special time, right? It's a more delicate moment in anyone's life. Now, if you already have any health problems, when in doubt, it's always good to check with your doctor or your nutritionist the dosage, and whether it's indicated for you or not. This video here is merely informational. Also remember, as I mentioned, there are other options. I talked here about sage tea because tea is easy to add to your daily routine, but the study was actually done with the standardized extract of sage tea, which ends up being more concentrated. What you should never use is the essential oil, because the essential oil is obtained by distillation, and it concentrates many volatile substances, and it can be toxic for some people, so never ingest, never consume essential oil, okay? This is a very important point. What you can discuss with your doctor or your nutritionist is about using the standardized extract, because then you already have the correct dosage. The standardized extract ends up being more scientifically controlled, so to speak. Also remember that sage tea will help you, but as a compliment, sage tea is not going to work miracles. I would really like to tell you that if you drink sage tea, you will definitely not get Alzheimer's. I can't say that because obviously there are a lot of other factors involved. So, in other words, following a healthy diet is super important for you. One that's rich in vegetables, good fats, omega-3, which are good for the brain, fruits, legumes, greens. The basis of the Mediterranean diet, right? I have a video here on the channel talking more about it. About the diet of the blue zones, of the long-lived and healthy centenarians. Sleeping well is super important for the brain. That deep sleep allows us to activate the brain's lymphatic cleaning system, preventing problems in the medium and long term. Physical activity and mental activity are super important for the brain. So, reading a book, playing chess, playing math games, crossword puzzles, learning a new language just for fun is as important for the brain as walking, weight training, water aerobics, or Pilates. So, the brain has to work and the body has to work for the brain to stay healthy too. And of course, as we already know, social connections are closely linked to good brain health and the prevention of Alzheimer's. So, keeping in touch with family and friends, always socializing, is also a way to take care of and protect your brain. So, are you going to try sage tea now? Or did you already drink it without knowing it was this good for your brain? If you're going to start adding it to your routine, I'd love to see your comment. Remember to like the video, it really helps me out, and share it with anyone who would enjoy it or needs it. Let's work together to spread this chain of good. That's what I want here with the channel. See you next time. Bye.